What is going on, YouTube? My name is Liam. It is January 26, 2022. Went for a little morning walk. Found this abandoned car. I guess I can't really say found because I've been to this spot before. There's a beautiful little waterfall right here. Shout out to my buddy Tony for showing me this spot. But anyway, this video isn't about this beautiful spot here in the Redwoods. It's actually about video games. And more importantly, why I stopped playing them. I think the title will probably be why I stopped playing video games. So, without much more deliberation, let's get into it. So, around 2016 or so, maybe 2015, I just stopped playing video games. I didn't really play them too much to begin with, but I physically, I decided I was done, and I still have played casually. I play Flash games sometimes when I'm bored. I play JavaScript Snake a lot, like especially if I'm listening to a YouTube video or a podcast in the background. I'll play some JavaScript Snake just to kind of have something to do with my fingers. For a little leisure. It's fun to play JavaScript Snake sometimes. But I haven't played Modern Warfare, League of Legends, I don't know, any video games that are popular right now. Fortnite, actually when Fortnite was really popular, I played it a bit. I probably played, like 10 or 20 hours of Fortnite. But I was playing over at my parents' house on my little brother's console, PlayStation 4, I suppose. And, I don't actively play video games. I don't really have like a gaming PC or a console, an Xbox or a Switch or a PlayStation or what have you. It's just not something that I'm interested in doing. And then, I didn't really have a pen or a pad of paper to take notes, so I was trying to think of reasons why I don't play video games on my walk down here. I think, for one, I was kind of set up for it. My parents weren't super pro video game. They let me play video games. For example, I think the first video game I played would have been Microsoft Flight Simulator. My dad got this little joystick. Somehow, I don't know, he either bought it or he got it from work or something, and he bought Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm not sure exactly what machine we had at the time, just some, PC, and I play Microsoft Flight Simulator. My dad, he never got his pilot's license, but he started the process, and he's flown planes before, so I think he wanted to get me interested in flight, and it was. I remember crashing the plane and stuff and all this different, trying to land, flying like a 747, if I can recall, some kind of, commercial passenger jet, but I digress. So, I played video games. Then after that, around 2005, maybe 2006, my dad, his coworker loaned him Call of Duty 1 for the PC, so I played that. And then a little bit later, he had to give Call of Duty 1 back, and then a little bit later he got his coworker to loan him Call of Duty 2. So, I started on Call of Duty 1 and 2. That was great. I've always been interested in history, so it was fun to kind of play through World War II. And I was going to say I already knew some of the missions, but I've got it in reverse order. Playing Call of Duty 1 or 2, I think, you storm the beach with the Rangers in Normandy and shoot grappling hooks up the cliff and stuff. And I remember when I was 10 or 12 watching History Channel, and they were describing, the logistics of the Normandy invasion and the creation of, the Rangers Special Forces. And I was like, hey, I already know that from Call of Duty. But I digress once more. So, from there, I didn't really have any video games until I was like 8 or 9. And around 2009 or maybe 2010, my parents bought me a PlayStation 3. And so from there, I started to play a lot more video games. But even then, my parents limited it to the weekends only. So, I wasn't like just given free reign. So I think that's part of why I don't play as much video games now, is I was kind of just raised that way. It's part of my psyche that, you don't just like game out all day. You don't like come home from school and immediately start gaming. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like I was some amazing child. I'd just come home from school and watch History Channel on the weekdays or watch Spike or Animal Planet or something. And then on the weekends, it was like my glorious time to play some video games. Modern Warfare 2 was really the first video game that I played on the PlayStation 3. Since I'd already played COD 1 and 2, it came naturally. And then Assassin's Creed, Red Faction Guerrilla, all these different games, you know, that I remember playing back then. So, fast forward a bit to 2015, 2016, I was watching Mad Men at the time, and if you've watched Mad Men, you'll know there's, you know, somewhere in the middle of the series, the main character, Don Draper, spoiler alert, he writes this letter, you know, why I've decided to quit smoking. He doesn't actually quit, but he drops his advertising agency, you know, no longer does advertising pieces for cigarette companies. And he writes this, you know, piece, why I decided to quit smoking, about how his firm's doing that, and puts it in the news, and it's this big thing. And so, as silly as it is to admit that, I wrote a little paragraph, like, why I'm deciding to quit video games, because I had already kind of, like, fizzled out. I didn't play as much as I used to when I was 10 or 11. And, yeah, from that day on, I wish I still had the little paragraph that I wrote. I basically just wrote that, you know, video games are designed to be addictive and take up more of your time. And, you know, they cost a lot of money. That's another thing about video games. You know, PC games, not so much, but even still, and especially console games, they cost a lot of money. You know, like $60, $70, $80 for a game, let alone, you know, downloadable content, paying for, you know, like Xbox Live or PlayStation Network or whatever it is, you know, paying a monthly subscription just to play multiplayer games. It's a big sink of money. Big sink of money. And, you know, not so much the money, but the time that you're wasting, I think, is really important. You know, I mean, I would like to think, honestly, I'm so broke right now, this probably isn't even true, but, you know, I would hope that most, you know, people my age, you know, adult men can, you know, pay for a PS5, I guess is what I'm getting at. Sure, it's, you know, $600-$700, but, you know, $600 or $700 isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. You know, it's like, what, you know, 5 days of working for minimum wage or slightly above it. My point is, you know, it's not so much about the $600 or $700 that you spend, but if you spend, you know, 10 hours a week playing that game, you know, what do you value your time? How do you value your time? So, you know, in 10 hours a week, for some people is nothing, you know. Some people game hours and hours and hours a day. So it's just a big waste of time, you know. It's not something you should be doing. And another thing I was thinking on the way down here is, like, I think part of why I went away from video games is they're just getting more complicated. You know, like as I alluded to, you know, having to pay for a multiplayer subscription, you know, yet another way that PCs win, but I digress. You know, having to, like, set up online multiplayer, you know, and, you know, have people to play with, like friends, you know, who are online at the same time as you, you know, and, like, trying to get good. You know, I'm talking about, like, first-person shooters here, but I think this applies to any game. Trying to get, like, the best weapons and figure it out, you know, so you can actually compete somewhat well and not have, like, some horrible KD ratio or whatever it is, you know. It's a lot, you know, it's not something you can just pick up, you know, and do for an hour, like Call of Duty 1 or Call of Duty 2 is, you know, playing single player. It's, you know, video games nowadays, they're just, I don't know, I guess I don't really play them, so I can't make this statement, but it feels like there's a lot less, like, casual games that you can just kind of pick up, you know, play for 30 minutes, maybe you're, like, maybe you have some buddies over, you know, you're having a couple of beers, or just having a good time, and you want to play a little video game, you know, that's fine. I enjoy that type of video game usage. Honestly, mobile games are a good example, like, you're stuck, you know, you're waiting on a bus stop, play a little Candy Crush or something, you know, that's fine, but really, like, you know, like, China's limited how much video games children can play. I can't remember the exact figures off the top of my head, but let's say it's like an hour a day. I definitely don't think we should have laws on the books limiting kids to an hour a day. I think that's a perverse violation of personal freedoms. But nonetheless, you know, that's probably a good idea, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like, we shouldn't have laws for that. But you should probably limit your young children to, like, 1 hour a day, if that, of video games. You know, I only play it on the weekends. You know, I can remember playing for what felt like hours and hours, but I was a little kid, so I probably, you know, let's say I played 3 or 4 hours Saturday and Sunday. That's 8 hours a week. You know, compared to playing, like, 2 or 3 hours every day after school, plus what I did, you know, it's a difference of 10 hours or so. And, that seems like that was what most kids, you know, did in elementary. Maybe I was just, you know, longing for that. So I was looking for it. But, you know, all these kids would be like, oh, you know, let's play, you know, let's meet up after, you know, let's play COD after school or whatever, play Black Ops, and we'll meet up online. And I'd have to just kind of like, oh, I can't today, you know, play it off because I couldn't until the weekend. So there you go, you know. I never had a Wii or anything, and all these different things, you know, that my peers had and gamed a lot, like you know, a Nintendo, you know, a mobile gaming device, all these different things. You know, I never really did that much growing up, and you know, at the time I was kind of, you know, I can remember being a little brat about it, you know, and wanting to play more, and like, you know, it didn't really happen much, but if my parents were going to be like gone for a couple of hours, even though it was a Wednesday or something, you know, I'd fire up the PlayStation. But as I grow older, more and more, I really just appreciate the fact that my parents were conscious of that and kind of limited my video game exposure, because I just really see it as an addiction, you know, that takes up too much time. So with that being said, I think that's about all the thoughts I had to get out in this video. That's pretty much all I can say about video games. You know, as I was saying, if you play video games a little bit, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. You know, everything in moderation, even moderation. But please just be conscious of how much time you're taking up, and if you're spending too much money on it, and if it's really something that's positive and benefits you and adds value to your life. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you learned something or you thought this video was interesting, it gave you a different perspective on life, please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed watching this video and it was pleasurable for you, please leave a like. And if you enjoyed hearing me talk, you might as well subscribe. You can hear me talk more. So, thanks for watching. Peace.